Hello and welcome to another video on this channel. We said some time ago that in order to know the status of your diversity visa application, you should send an inquiry email to KCC. We even saw how to compose that email. Now, when you write to KCC, KCC will reply to your inquiry. In today's video, I will be walking you through the different versions of KCC's reply and say what each of them means. Let's go into that. Welcome back to this discussion. Before we begin to consider the different versions of the reply you get from KCC, I would like to inform you that I have included the link to the video that explains how to compose the inquiry email in the description of this video for those of you who are interested in knowing how to do so. Now to our discussion. When you write to KCC concerning the status of your diversity visa application, as a reply from KCC, you will receive one of the emails that you have on your screen. The first one reads, "Thank you for your inquiry. Records indicate you have submitted a complete and valid DS-260 application for each family member to the Kentucky Consular Center." But just before that, we have something in parentheses that I will return to in a moment. We continue. Interviews are scheduled numerically based on case numbers that have completed processing. Please refer to the visa bulletin at this address to locate the current numbers being processed. This bulletin is updated after the 15th day of each month. Once an interview date has been scheduled, you will receive notification via email to check at this address, which is the entering status check. Now, what this email is saying is that KCC acknowledged that they have received the DS-260 or DS-260s that you submitted for yourself and possibly other family members. What you have in parentheses is a clause that is usually added to this email during programs when applicants are required to submit documents to KCC. But in the case of DV 2023, where documents are not required to be submitted, this clause should not be a part of this email. And then what comes next is information that I guess you are already aware of. That is how cases are scheduled for interview based on case numbers. But that only concerns cases whose DS-260s have been processed. And then in case you wish to know the case numbers that are currently being considered, you should consult the visa bulletin at the address that is mentioned. Now, when it comes to the part that speaks about the visa bulletin being updated after the 15th day of each month, on some occasions, the visa bulletin is updated and appears on the official website even before the 15th of the month. So that is not up to date. And then the email concludes by telling you how and when you can expect to be notified concerning your diversity visa interview. So when it comes to this first email, what you should retain in essence is that KCC acknowledged that they have received the DS-260 or DS-260s that you submitted on behalf of your case. They have not included any further information regarding those DS-260s. The second one says, "Thank you for your inquiry. Your forms have been received and are currently processing. Allow several weeks for processing. Interviews are scheduled numerically based on case numbers that have completed processing. Once the Kentucky Consular Center has finished processing your DS-260, you will receive an email from the Kentucky Consular Center giving you instructions to complete in order for your case to continue processing." Now, what KCC are saying in this one is that not only have they received your DS-260 or DS-260s, But that DS-260 or those DS-260s are currently being processed. And processing may take several weeks. So it is actually your patience that is being requested at this level. Now, what comes next is what we saw earlier, how cases are considered for scheduling, that is based on case numbers, and that concerns cases whose DS-260s have completed processing. Now, the final part of this email should actually be disregarded. After your DS-260 has been processed, you do not receive an email from KCC until your interview has been scheduled. So disregard the information that is being provided in the final part of this second version of the reply email. So what you should retain from this second version is that your DS-260 or DS-260s have been received by KCC and they are currently being processed. So be patient for a number of weeks to allow processing to complete. Then version number 3, thank you for your inquiry. Your DS-260 has been processed. You should have received or will soon receive an email from the Kentucky Consular Center giving you instructions to complete in order for your case to continue processing. Please follow the instructions in the email. Interviews are scheduled numerically based on case numbers that have completed processing. Please refer to the visa bulletin at this address to locate the current numbers being processed. The bulletin is updated after the 15th day of each month. Once an interview date has been scheduled, you will receive notification via email to check at this address, which is the entry status check. When it comes to this third version, what you should retain is that your DS-260 has been processed. What comes right after that is the same as what I spoke about concerning parts of the two previous versions. That information is not currently being applied in the current context of the diversity visa program. You do not receive the email when your DS-260 has completed processing. It is only when the date of your interview has been scheduled that is when you receive that email in the current context of the diversity visa program. So disregard what comes after your DS-260 has been processed. And then when it comes to the second part of this version, it is something that I've already explained in the case of the two previous versions. So as I said earlier, what needs to be retained from this third version is that your DS-260 has been processed, and once your interview has been scheduled, you will receive notification to that effect. And then the fourth and final version reads, thank you for your inquiry. Your case number is now current for interview processing. Once the interview date has been scheduled, you will receive notification via email to check at this address, which is the entrant status check. If you need to make changes to your DS-260, you should contact the consular section where you will be interviewed or bring the information about your changes to your interview appointment. Because your case is ready to be scheduled, KCC can no longer unlock your application. Now, this final version is indicating that your case is now ready to be scheduled for interview. But don't get it wrong. Being ready to be scheduled for interview does not necessarily mean that it will be scheduled for interview immediately. In the current context of the diversity visa program, when you receive this version of the reply from KCC, the scheduling of your interview will largely depend on the working situation, which includes the rate of interviews being conducted at your embassy. In case your embassy is working well, then you can expect your interview to take place soon. But in case your embassy is not working well, they are interviewing cases very slowly, then even after receiving this email reply, it's going to take some time before your interview actually gets scheduled. And once the interview is scheduled, that is when you will receive notification by email to access your entrant status check. And another important piece of information in this final version is that at this point, you cannot request KCC to unlock your DS260s because your case is well advanced in the application process. In case you have any corrections or any changes to make to your DS260, at this point, either you contact the consular section of your embassy or you bring those changes along with you to your diversity visa interview. So what you should retain after receiving this version of the reply email is that your case is ready to be scheduled for interview. And because of that, you can no longer request to make changes to your DS260. And in the current context of the diversity visa program, the scheduling of your interview will depend on how your embassy is interviewing diversity visa cases. So those are the different versions of the reply email that applicants receive from KCC after they inquire concerning the status of their diversity visa application or diversity visa case. Which brings us to the end of today's discussion. Thanks for watching this video. See you, God willing, in the next one.